John Skilpaw had a difficult childhood. His overbearing mother always suppressed him in everything. Sometimes she would tell her son that she no longer loved him. The actions take place in Peacock, a small town in Nebraska. John, already an adult, wears a wig and women's clothing. In this guise, he tries not to show himself in public. After preparing breakfast and tidying up the house, John looked out the window at a happy family. He himself was deprived of a happy childhood. John glances at the clock as if waiting for something. Later, John washed off his makeup and took off his wig, as if nothing had happened. It's time for work soon, so John hastily ate the breakfast prepared by Emma, his alter ego. They live independently of each other. In John's backyard, there is a hiding place where he keeps some important things for himself. As usual, John went to work on his bicycle. He works as a bank clerk and doesn't stand out among the others. John's boss, Edmund French, said they were celebrating the re-election of Mayor Ray Krill today, so he would have to skip lunch to finish work by 3 o'clock. When Mr. French left, John took out the keys he had retrieved from his hiding place that morning. Next, John began his normal workday. John didn't attend the celebration for the mayor's re-election. He feels uncomfortable and constrained among other people. Of course, nobody knows about Emma, John's alter ego. And today she asked him to go to the store for groceries. In the evening, John did just that. He also has always bought baseball cards. As he was leaving the store, he was noticed by Louise Sternberg. John wanted to leave as quickly as possible, but Louise struck up a conversation with him. She felt sorry for the lonely guy, so she invited him to dinner with her family. John mumbled something in response and hurried away. First thing he did was to put the new baseball cards in his hiding place. John has a sweet tooth. It's one of his few pleasures. At home, he found notes from Emma. That's their way of communicating. In the morning, while John in the guise of Emma was hanging laundry, a train accident occurred. The train derailed and crashed straight into his yard. Concerned passengers gathered around the unfamiliar woman, who fortunately was unharmed. Everyone was puzzled because nobody knew that John had a girlfriend. John hastily ran into the house and changed into his normal clothes, then went outside. A little more, and the house would have been destroyed. John was perplexed and went back into the house after reading a note from Emma, who wanted him to not talk to anyone at work today. On his way to work, Officer McGonagall stopped beside him and asked about the train. John said he was in a hurry. Mr. French was already aware of the accident and the woman at John's house. It's a small town, so gossip spreads quickly. Mayor Ray Krill insisted that Edmund French give John a day off. Mr. French of course couldn't argue with the mayor, who also happens to be the bank's owner, but when everyone else left, he told John that all the documents for today needed to be sorted out. In the afternoon, John went home and found Officer McGonagall in his yard. It turns out everyone in town thinks that woman is John's wife. When John's mother passed away, McGonagall helped John handle all the formalities because John, being an introvert, wouldn't have been able to do it on his own. So now the officer advised John to immediately call the company that owns the train and file a claim. John did just that. He doesn't like having strangers in his yard, but there is no alternative. In the morning, when John in the guise of Emma opened the front door, he saw unwelcome guests on the doorstep: Connor Black, a political advisor to Senator Jason White, and a woman named Fanny. They wanted to talk to John and get his permission for the senator to speak directly in his yard with the train as a backdrop. The thing is, Senator White's political opponent wants to smear him using this accident, and the elections are only 3 weeks away. John was shocked to see his photo as Emma in the newspapers. Furthermore, Connor wants John and his wife to attend this rally. Fanny asked Connor to leave her and Mrs. Skilpaw alone. When he left, Emma asked Fanny how she knew John. Fanny replied that she is Ray Krill's wife, who has been elected mayor several times. Fanny runs the local women's shelter and wants women to have the opportunity to participate in the city's political life. Fanny wants Emma to help her with this. Without giving a definite answer, Emma went upstairs. John is very afraid that someone will recognize him. However, with determination, Emma descended back to the guests and offered them drinks and cookies. Fanny explained that she helps not only homeless women but also children. Fanny plans to hold a photo shoot to raise funds for the shelter. And if Emma participates, it will greatly help them. Seeing Emma's hesitation, Fanny said that a modern woman should be self-sufficient and make decisions on her own. Later the phone rang. It was Mr. French, who wanted to know why John was late for work. He said in a female voice that John would be there soon. John found himself in the spotlight, which he didn't like. Connor and Fanny told him about their acquaintance with Emma and their idea for the rally in John's yard. Fanny said that Emma approved of this idea. Suddenly John stated that Emma is not dictating terms to him and that he wants the company owner to remove the train from his yard immediately. Fanny realized that she and Connor should leave John and Ray to talk alone, which they did. Ray said he aims to become a senator, but he needs to acquire influential connections for that. So Ray advised John to think carefully about it. It wouldn't be good to quarrel with a future senator. The rest of the day, John pondered what to do now. He returned home late and saw his old acquaintance Maggie Bailey with her 2-year-old son Jake. John asked her what she needed. Maggie said she was planning to leave with her son and needed money. The last time John saw Maggie was a year ago. Now Maggie works double shifts and saves money on everything, but it has been very difficult for her since the checks stopped coming a year ago. John doesn't understand why his mother sent checks to Maggie until her demise. She explained to John that his mother wanted her to stay away from him. Realizing that Jake is his son, John hurried upstairs and came down a few minutes later dressed as Emma, which caught Maggie off guard. She said she read about the train in the newspaper and just wanted to make sure John was okay. Emma introduced herself as John's wife. Maggie was about to leave with her son, but Emma offered to give them a ride. When Maggie asked where John was, Emma said he was sleeping. Maggie looked puzzled. Emma, being a bad driver, gave them a ride and walked them home. Maggie lives in a trailer. Suddenly there was a knock on the door. There was a man at the doorstep. Maggie said she wasn't alone and asked him to come back later. Emma guessed that Maggie was looking for any way to make money and asked her to tell about her acquaintance with John. At first Maggie wasn't sure if she should talk about it, but Emma promised not to judge her. Maggie revealed that she met John's mother in a bar 3 years ago. According to Maggie, Emma resembles that woman a lot. She even initially mistook them. John's mother paid Maggie to meet her son. John didn't want this. Understanding this, Maggie was about to leave, but John's mother wouldn't allow her. As she told this, Maggie cried. Emma said that women need to stick together and support each other. To confirm her words, Maggie showed Emma Jake's birth certificate. In the father field, it said John Skilpaw. Upon returning home, Emma didn't rush to take on John's persona. The dresses she wears once belonged to the mother. The next morning, Emma called the adoption agency and asked if she and John could obtain guardianship of Jake. The worker explained that they would need references for this. Emma thought that Fanny Krill could help her. That same morning, she went to Fanny's shelter, where women with children who are in difficult situations live. Fanny was glad to see Emma, who announced that she had spoken with John and received his consent to hold the rally in their yard. Fanny asked Emma to inform Connor personally, which she did. Later on the street, Officer McGonagall saw Emma and said that in a town of 800 people, she was the hardest person to find. Under the pretext of being busy, she hurried away. Later, as Emma was giving Fanny a ride, she asked if Fanny had children. For the mayor's wife, it was a difficult topic. Fanny said that she and Ray had a son who passed away 14 years ago. Emma said that she and John have long dreamed of having a child. Emma knows for a fact that if Maggie and Jake lived in Fanny's shelter, the adoption process would be easier. When Emma came to Maggie's, she saw that Maggie's suitor was mistreating her and Jake. Emma stood up for her and then advised Maggie to take the son and go live at Fanny's shelter. Maggie doesn't want to, considering it a fate for unambitious women. She dreams of finding a good job that she can be proud of and that will allow her to give the son a better future. Emma insisted that it would be better for Jake. Out of desperation, Maggie is willing to try, but if John offered her financial assistance, she wouldn't refuse and would use this money to move. Later, Emma took out that same key from the hiding place again. It's been a long time since anyone has seen John, so it's time to assume the true identity. The mayor's wife came to his house and presented him and Emma with a small gift as a thank you for agreeing to hold the rally in their yard. When Fanny asked if Emma was home, John didn't answer. He suffers from dissociative identity disorder and doesn't agree with what Emma does. They are like two different people. Opening Fanny's gift, John saw a photo frame. He feels like his life is spiraling out of control. In the morning, John found breakfast prepared by Emma in the kitchen as usual. Hearing extraneous noises, he stepped outside and saw that the officer and the senator's aide had organized the construction of bleachers here. John started yelling that he was against the rally, but these people had already obtained Emma's consent and had no intention of considering John's opinion. He was willing to pay the worker $800 in cash to remove the train from his yard the next day. John was late for work again, which displeased French. Apparently, John will have to skip lunch again. One of his colleagues told John that his wife was calling. He answered the phone in fear. Of course it wasn't Emma but Maggie, who is currently at Fanny's shelter. Learning that Maggie spoke with Emma the day before, John said he would come there immediately. But instead, he went home. John is haunted by his past. His mother passed away a year ago but hasn't left him. John took the mother's belongings and went to Fanny's shelter, saying he wanted to donate these items. John asked Maggie when Emma brought her here. Maggie replied yesterday. John feels like he's completely losing control. He's ready to give Maggie money so she can leave with Jake as soon as possible. Of course, Maggie agreed without hesitation. John also said he couldn't go back home. Maggie thought it was because of memories of his mother. John has indeed been through a lot. Maggie is about to move in with relatives in Madison, and John offered to drive her and Jake. Right now it's most important for him that Maggie and her son are far away from here. When Maggie apologized for causing inconvenience to him and his wife, John said Emma isn't his wife. While Maggie and Jake waited in the trailer, John went to the bank for money. Of course, the bank was already closed. Later, the officer found John lying by a tree and asked what happened. John said he couldn't go back home. He also mentioned how badly the mother treated him many years ago. McGonagall knows John has had a tough time, but he wasn't privy to all the details. John wants only one thing, for no one else to experience what he has. McGonagall took John home, even though he didn't want to go back there. Gathering his essentials, John checked into a motel. If he had stayed home, Emma would have returned again. However, when John opened his suitcase, he found Emma's belongings, not his own. Emma is always with him, wherever he may be. In the morning, John was already at home in Emma's guise. Suddenly there was a knock on the door. It was the worker who explained that John had hired him to remove the train from the property. Emma said her husband wasn't home right now. The worker said he would come back tomorrow. Anxious Fanny arrived, saying that yesterday John took Maggie and Jake from the shelter, and no one has seen them since. At Fanny's request, Emma went to Maggie's trailer to talk to her. Maggie told her the whole truth. She's not going to refuse John's help. Emma promised Maggie she would arrange a job for her at the bank. However, for Maggie, leaving Peacock is more important. This town is dragging her down. Emma had to leave with nothing. At home, she opened a box of John's toys and called Maggie, but now as John. They agreed to meet at the motel exactly at 11 o'clock at night. Before hanging up, John said that if Emma finds out, she will take the money. It was important that Maggie be waiting for him at the motel exactly at 11. At work, John tried to be deliberately polite to his colleagues. But it was just a distraction. While no one was watching, John stole money from the cash register and hurriedly left the bank. Emma's influence over him grew stronger. She shaved her eyebrows to look more feminine and went to a bar, where she met a guy named Cal, who never stayed in one place for long. Emma introduced herself as Maggie. Later, the couple went to the motel room, the same one where John was supposed to wait for Maggie. When Cal turned away, Emma attacked him, taking his life. Afterward, she dressed Cal in John's clothes and set the room on fire. Seeing the flames, Maggie rushed to the motel, but the door was locked. She was convinced that the deceased man was John. In the morning, the officer, a priest, and Fanny came to Emma's house to inform her of John's demise. According to the firefighters, John fell asleep in the room with a cigarette, which sparked the fire. Emma appeared to be grieving, but in reality she got what she wanted. She had permanently rid herself of John. Soon there was the rally in the backyard of Emma's house. Emma, by the way, became obsessively caring for Jake, who reminds her of John. Emma transformed into John's mother. Coming to her senses, Emma brought Maggie into the house and said she didn't want what happened to her to happen to anyone else. That's why she wants to give Maggie all her money just so she and Jake can leave Peacock. Jake is in danger here. Emma also said that John shouldn't have perished, and she shouldn't have shown herself to people at all. Seeing Maggie and Jake leaving forever, Emma felt relief. It was time for the photo shoot. Fanny asked Emma to come out, but she locked herself in the house and closed all the curtains. In the final scene, we see her sitting alone in her room.